Hi everybody, Colin Stevenson here. I hope you're all well. Today we are joined again with John Lenhart. Hello John, my hero. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. So today we have a surprise for people. We're talking about the art of storytelling and the difference between a person telling a story and a robot just giving information. Okay, this is particularly close to me because I like to tell stories. I like to speak, but that makes me unique and it also makes me a human being. So would you like to tell the people your take on storytelling, please?
Yeah, this is such a big topic. I think this is probably going to be part one of many. So just as an introduction, we have to kind of take a step back. Our brain works as humans. Our brains work according to stories. And so what we've been talking about is in our brain, there's a dendrite, and the trunk of it has a word. Like if I say the word grass, in my brain, there's a trunk that says grass. And there's can be 250,000 connecting facts. There could be mowing the grass. There could be summer in grass. This has maybe a not happy emotion. Maybe it's like, oh, I got to mow the grass. And then this could have a happy emotion. Oh, I smell grass. It's summer. Yay. So what happens is our brain works. A thought goes, I smell grass. I think about mowing. I jump to the mowing tree and feel the emotion when I jump over. Well, those are the same three parts of a story. A story is simply you introduce the characters, you present the conflict, which is the connection, and then you bring the resolution. You present the solution or the resolution, which is the emotion or the end. So our brain works just like a full thought. Now, the issue is that when people value the fact more than the story, they are saying we're robots. And in our last video, Colin, I don't remember if you remember saying this, but you actually apologized for saying something to the effect of, I don't care about the fact or the answer, I care about the story. So you actually said that in the last one. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
And so that was proof. Like one of the things when I meet people, one of the first things I'm watching for is, are they tapping their foot, wanting the fact? Colin, ask you a question, give me the fact, give me the fact, give me the fact. They think you're a robot, they think they're a robot. Yep. But if somebody is like you, and when I first met you, when we first had our interaction, it's like, oh, this guy gets it. This guy's a human. He understands. The fact isn't, it's not that the fact isn't important, but the story, the exchange is more important to humans than the fact. To a robot, the fact is more important than the exchange.
Yes. Now, just while you touch on that there, I just want to bring up a quick subject of the way that we are spoken to from the television. So this is what's coming just now with all this kind of stuff that's going on just now within the world. And we are dictated to, we're given information. There's never a story behind it, a reason behind it or anything. It's you will do this. This is what's happening. This is how it goes. There's never any because we want to keep you safe. We want to do it. We don't get any stories. All we get is the facts.
Right. So what happens is they think we're robots and they think you just need the fact. And the problem is we won't remember the fact. We actually saw in our sexism video, when you give a woman a fact, we all automatically fill in the story. That's why there's all this bias. Versus if you give a story, you remove the bias and you hold the fact. So the thing is that if you tell someone a fact, they're most likely not going to remember it. If you tell someone a story that has a fact in it, they'll never forget it. And there's so many examples. Like if we take this to an extreme, so music, okay? Every song is a story. Yes. I can summarize every song in 3 sentences. Here's the characters of the song. Here's the conflict in the song. Here's the resolution of the song. So why don't we make a law to take every song in the world and reduce it to 3 verses and be done with it?
Yep.
The important thing is the fact, then let's take every piece of music and reduce it that way. But why? the story is important in the song, but it's not the most important thing. It's not why we listen to music. We don't listen to music to get this fact. Otherwise, once we heard a song, we don't need to hear it again.
Yeah, and just where you say that, this is amazing, because the book that I'm writing just now, I talk about music and the frequencies and the journey it takes us on. And this is why people become emotionally attached to songs, because it reminds them of their life. It can remind them of situations. They feel it. They don't feel the music. Yes, they feel the vibration, the frequency that comes into them causes the frequency in their brains to move. But then their emotional attachment comes to it. If you don't have a song with it, you're just speaking facts, so they're making it in, which is absolutely spot on to what you're saying. And this is why people become emotionally attached to songs and have these triggers when they listen to music. They don't remember the facts, but they remember the feeling, and this is exactly what you're talking about.
Right. So I have a friend of mine who's teaching his son how to drive. And they were getting in an argument. He takes them out late at night to help them drive when no one's around. And they were getting an argument with all this Black Lives Matter and everything you and I've talked about. And he knows how to use the communication guidelines. He knows how to do all of that. So he's taking his son to drive. He's using the communication guidelines. He's showing respect. And they're doing this. And all of a sudden, the conversation turns into this really respectful, understanding, great moment. And it feels so good. And my point to him was, 5 years from now, you're going to remember that wonderful moment with your son, and you're not going to be able to come up with all the little details of that. How many times have you think back to some great moment we had where we laughed, we had this great time, and if someone said, well, what specifically were you talking about? You go, I don't know what we were talking about, but that proves we're humans. The fact, the feeling and the experience is more important than the fact. Not the fact's not important, but that's more important, and it lasts longer.
Yes, and this is why, when I meet people, I can meet people once, and years later they'll come back and say, do you remember I met you at this place? They won't remember what they spoke about, but they'll remember how I allowed them to feel, or how I made them feel by the stories that I told. And this is because certain of us, you're good at it. You're good at stories. You're an administrator, teacher, but you're good at stories. You explain it. I am compassion server, which also means that we've got different traits, but because we have the art of storytelling, this is where the communication and the connection is. So somebody that I have got nothing in common about, or nothing in common with, I'm able to speak to them on a level, regardless of what we could like. One could like American football, one could like golf, so again, two sports that are totally different, but I could speak about both because it's a story, and that's where the connection comes in.
Right. And I really think, again, some of the videos we talked about, men and women and men talking to women, it's really important for men to learn how to talk in stories. So it's really key, because what happens is the guys who get the most affirmation hanging out with guys are the ones who talk in stories. The guys who get the most attention from females are the ones who talk in stories. Yeah. And again, you interviewed Ed. Ed and I love to talk about the art of storytelling, because we love to teach it to males, because it's one of the things that helps them feel like a man. And the example I'll give you is this. One of the reasons why it's really important. So my point is, every person can learn how to tell stories, and everybody should, okay? The reason why it's important is storytelling is the only way to build a more positive emotion. Meaning, I can go find $20 in the parking lot and get a good emotion. But the only way I can have a better emotion to that $20 is if I share that with you, and you go, wow, that's great. And now my emotion actually grows. So if you want to grow the emotions in your brain, you have to learn how to tell a story, and you have to learn how to hear a story, and you have to learn how to tell it to the right person. And the simplest example of a story is a joke. A joke is, a guy walks into a bar, that's, then you present the conflict, then the punchline is the resolution. And that's why little boys are the ones who tell all these jokes, because they're learning how to tell all these stories, and it's the simplest way. And I can tell you, I gave a talk, this is like 5 years ago. I was teaching communication guidelines to this corporation. And what happened was it was offsite. I taught one day, and then the next morning I was teaching, and everybody kind of straggled in, and they looked kind of bleary-eyed. And I'm like, what happened? And nobody could tell me what happened without laughing their head off, because apparently they all hung out at the resort bar last night, and something happened that just caused them to go nuts. Well, I was going to teach storytelling that morning. Yeah. So I said, let me show you how storytelling works with a joke. And I said, what happened last night is a story. So there were characters, and you can see everybody in the room went, yeah, there were some, like they knew who the characters were in the story last night that they were telling. Yeah, and it was so funny to watch their faces. And then there was a conflict. And one guy goes, oh boy, was there a conflict. That was a conflict. And my point was, this is why it was so good, because it follows story. And I go, and then there was a resolution, and they all just burst out laughing. Because and I'm like, I could tell a joke and not tell a joke. I can stand up there and go, characters, conflict, resolution. And, hey, it's a great crowd, great crowd. But it was funny because I walked into a story without ever knowing the details, but it accessed everything in their brain, and it caused them to laugh all over again.
Is that because they felt like, so they had the story, so they would maybe have told somebody the facts of what happened, and the person wouldn't laugh, because all they're gaining is, this person did this, then this happened, and then at the end it was okay. So that is not a story, that's the facts. But because they put emotion and feeling into it, and it allows that person to always feel what they're speaking about again.
Well, it's knowing the three parts, because you're right. They would talk about a lot of things, and I'm trying to say, look, everything that happened last night, there's only three things you have to communicate for everybody to get it. You don't have to communicate. I mean, this thing happened over 2 hours apparently, but I got it in 3 sentences, and it accessed everything. And that's why this is really important, because one of the things is they talk about, I don't know if they have this term over in Europe, but in America, they talk about brains from poverty. So you have these kids who grew up in poverty situations, their brains don't form the right way, and everybody wants to blame the poverty for why their brains didn't form the right way. And dietary is an issue for the brain, don't get me wrong, but everything else can be repaired. And one of the points I've made to people is if I'm a kid and I've a brain from poverty, let's say, and let's say you're my teacher, and I found a dog over the weekend. So in my brain, dog, the event that happened this weekend, smiley face. Yeah. And you say to me, hey, John, what happened this weekend? 2 things are going on. In my brain, I'm not gonna tell you the story. And you're gonna say, well, you're a brain from poverty, you have brain issues, that's why. It's like, no. Here's the issue. You are asking me to explain about this happy moment. But if I explain this and you don't give back a positive emotion, my happy moment's going to be a less happy moment. Okay, that's why a joke gets funnier. I tell you the joke, you laugh, you tell someone else a joke. When they laugh, the emotion of their laugh and your original from me grows it. And the joke keeps getting funnier until someone goes, that's stupid. Now the joke's not funny anymore, because that's what's happening to us humans. This kid is saying, look, I don't think you're going to listen to this story, and I don't think you're going to respond the right way. You might say, oh, did you check to see whose dog it was? And it's like, wow. I want to hold this emotion. Second thing, I don't know how to tell a story. I'm going to start telling you about what happened this weekend, and then I'm going to start stressing out because I'm probably going to get it wrong, and I don't know what. And now I'm already, because it's associated with this, I'm already losing the good emotion. So my answer is, Colin, I don't want to lose the good emotion by telling you the story. So I'd rather say nothing and hold my good emotion than share it in a stressful way and lose it. One of the first things Jonathan and I would do when we had our man night, one of the first things I do in these schools with these middle school and elementary kids, the first week, we teach the kids how to tell a story. We have these anchor charts, there's 3 parts, and in sharing time, practice doing that, because it is the only way to build your good emotions in the brain. Don't you want to have your emotions get bigger in your brain? Storytelling is everything, unless you think you're a robot.
No, I love that. And, I remember it was a few months back that you gave me the opportunity to share with my 10-year-old son, Mr. Lenhart's class. Now, there's things that we can teach children, and there's things that children automatically pick up from us. Now, because I am naturally a storyteller, when I connect with my son, he talks to me similarly. But what I noticed until we watched the videos and the lessons for the children was when he spoke to other people, he didn't tell the same story. Now, this is because they weren't giving him the story, so he was then scared to give it to them. So when we are then speaking to people that are not giving us that back, unless like you or I, where our confidence levels come up, and it's like we don't mind exposing ourselves and coming into this situation, we will tell you this story regardless, without being scared. This is what builds confidence, emotion, etc., as I'm sure you'll agree. But what happens when people don't have this confidence, this causes them to close over, I believe. And this is where we can change that by automatically, because I can walk into a situation, speak to somebody and look for the shyest person in the room that will not speak one word to anybody, and I will sit right down beside them and I will say, "Hi, I'm Colin." That's the first introduction. They didn't expect it, so you feel, "What's your name?" Then you ask them, and then you start to open them up, and then you say, "Oh, that's so funny. Last night I did da 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 da, and then this happened." And then they go, "Wow, do you know that?" And what they do, you're giving them that comfortable space to open up and able to reciprocate the story. And this is how the energy builds, like you and I. The energy then builds. But when you're able to actually do this to people on a daily basis, I look at it as it's a natural talent, and it's beautiful.
Well, for you, I think it's a natural talent, and that's why I didn't have to teach you any of this. But it's important everybody learns this because everybody can do it. So you mentioned Mr. Lenhart's class, and I'm not going to get into, we'll do a video sometime about that, but basically Mr. Lenhart's class is a series of videos, short 5-minute videos, to help kids before 13 years old prepare their brain for synaptic pruning. Part of what's in there is exactly what you said, was how to make and build friendships. And part of that is storytelling and story hearing. So if you think about it, the key to having long-lasting friends, the key to building a marriage is, do you know how to have interactions that build emotions? And it's storytelling. So the thing is that you're teaching your son how to make and build friendships. And when you meet people, you know how to do it. And when people don't want to do it, you know not to waste your time with that person. You and I have built a friendship because we both value storytelling, and we both value the interaction more than the fact of it. And the reason why, again, you had a meeting with Ed Mabry that was supposed to be a half an hour, it went an hour and a half. And then you guys came on the air, second time you ever met, and just did a video, and you two flowed together, because I will tell you, Ed is a master storyteller, and he teaches people about stories, a lot of intricate details. So that's why you and Ed can build a friendship. And that's why we had said, even back to our series on racism, the key, the way that guy, converted 200 KKK members was, this black guy basically got to know people, knew how to build stories, knew how to build emotions in the brain, because you're human. And now you can't be racist to somebody that you build that happy emotion on the tree. You can't do it. So this is the key. To me, this whole story thing comes down to whether we're humans or robots. And the thing is I am, I like to see myself as I deal with the hurdle. I help people get rid of the barrier. I can explain it, and I can get rid of the barrier. You are the driver. Yep. You're the guy that knows how to actually take people into this. And is there any end to a friendship? Is there any end to a marriage? Not if you know how to build it. And you are perfect at that. So that's what I like about these videos, is I'm going to help people understand the barriers so they get them out of the way. But then they ought to be listening to you, because you actually do this and take people forward in it.
Yeah, and I love that. And this is where, as you say, we build friendships. It doesn't matter that we both work completely different. It's the fact that we bond together to create something bigger. And that's the whole point in a relationship. It's the whole point in a marriage. It's the whole point in a friendship. It's to create more, and you see a lot of people, and you go about and you watch different friendships, different marriages, different things. And we pick up things because we're very intuitive in terms of what we say and we understand as well. But you watch people not communicate, and then you hear them complaining about the lack of communication and things like that, and this is where I believe half the marriages, at least half the marriages, in my own belief, that don't work out is because it was lack of communication. They didn't try to grow it, and I think there's been a lot of wasted time and a lot of lives because they didn't understand, because we're trying to teach this to people. We're not taught this within the system growing up. We're not taught any of the things that are so important to life to allow people to grow individually, but also in relationships. And this is why I love the fact that you and I are both on here, able to express ourselves in a way that other people can then relate. I mean, they'll feel this energy off this video. There's absolutely no doubt about it. They will feel everything that we'll say, that we're touching different parts of their body that hasn't been touched before, and this will allow them to think and kind of move on and hopefully start telling stories to people.
Well, I'm gonna finish on that point, because I think you did it perfectly. Is that the hurdle? The thing I do is conscious, and that's only 10% of your brain. Yep. The thing you do, the driver, is unconscious. That's 90%. You just said people will sense this. See, when I teach a fact, I'm reaching 10% of you. When you tell a story, you're reaching 100% of people. So I will tell you, and we talk about this racism unconscious. Yep. So if you try to deal with it consciously, only dealing with 10% of the person, and you're making it worse, you need to deal with all of the person. And then what happens is, if you make somebody who feels, if a black person feels that person's racist unconsciously, and you tell them to explain it consciously, you're making it worse. Same thing happens with these self-help books.
Yeah.
Okay? Because here's the reality. The explanation behind these stories in these self-help books are 99% of the time wrong. I can show you they're wrong. However, the stories in these books are spectacular.
Yeah.
So the real reason why these people who write leadership books sell books is because people read them and like the stories and struggle with the explanation, but they like the stories. And the stories are where the truth is, and the stories are reaching the unconscious. And honestly, I could sit down with any one of these authors, ask them 3 questions, and they'd have to go, why, and they start making excuses. It's not, my point isn't to be able to explain it. My point is, it's like, because your explanation for that story is contradictory, yes, but the story is spectacular. So that's the thing, is that when I look at these self-help gurus, the stories are what you're really buying. When I see people quoting these self-help gurus, they're always wrong. And yeah, it's just, you missed it. Tell the story, don't give the explanation, because you're actually making it worse.
Yeah, and just before we finish up there, when the information is presented to people, okay, this is what, as you talk about, when they're kind of sucked in by this story, they get lost because the facts aren't really there. They're concentrating on it. And then I believe that when they have then finished the book, the self-help book, they have not got what they need to be able to go and help themselves. And this is what really, it irritates me in a way where it doesn't bother me, it doesn't affect my life, but it affects me because the amount of people that are trying to help themselves in the wrong way, which means they'll never help themselves, it's massive, and it's all over the world. And I just wish that we could take them all in our arms, give them a big, huge cuddle, tell them a story, and then give them the actual facts, because that would literally it would make everything so much better.
So you want to dissolve it by storytelling, which is the right answer. I will tell you, I want to explain why that's an issue. And really, that's the topic of our next talk. So I can't wait to see you in a couple of days and talk about that, because we're going to talk about why that throws everybody off with their uniqueness.
Yes, fantastic. And again, thank you so much. Part 2 for the storytelling, I'm very much looking forward to it. And I believe that I'll be getting Ed Mabry on as well to come on and talk about storytelling, because he can tell a good story. So again, thank you very much, John, and I will speak to you very soon. Take care.